Welcome into the latest edition of College Football Smothered and Covered. My name's Barrett Salih. I appreciate you checking out the show. If you have any comments, feel free to drop them in the chat. I'll do my best to answer them when it's appropriate. But like I say every single week, this is a new show. We're 29 episodes in. We were a ton of episodes in, over 200 before SEC Smothered and Covered got shut down in 2018 through no fault of my own. But we're back. We're making it national, and we're here for you. So make this, please, a part of your college football podcast and viewing rotation. I know Josh Pate does a great job. Andy Staples, JD Bickell, Michael Bratton, Connor O'Gara, all those guys do a great job. And I want to be a part of that. College football, I think, is one of the most undercovered, actually the most undercovered sport in all of the land. We're trying to fix that. We're trying to fix that in the podcasting space. We're trying to fix that in the new media space. So please give us a follow. 5-star, 1-star. I don't really care. Write a review, whether it's good or bad. I don't really care either way. Constructive criticism is something that I value. Not a lot of people value it. I do value it. So if you want to leave a negative comment, whether it be on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, wherever, I welcome those as well. I love those because we're here, like I said, for you. BreakingT.com/smothered and covered. This is a JMU shirt. James Madison, obviously, one of the stories of the 23 season under Kurt Cignetti. Obviously, he leaves to go to Indiana, but this moment will never die. Go to BreakingT.com/smothered and covered. Get this beauty, father of the Constitution, mother of all game day crowds. And if you watch that episode of College Game Day, and I actually don't get to watch a lot of them, watch that one though, and it was very impressive. The JMU crowd did a phenomenal job showing the world what that school, what that athletic department is all about. So BreakingT.com/smothered and covered if you want that one or any college shirt, breaking shirt, mugs, sweatshirts, everything. They have them over to BreakingT.com/smothered and covered. Texas A&M making news yesterday. Trev Albers, yes, speaking of game day, that Trev Albers was at Nebraska at his alma mater as the athletic director. He gets hired by Texas A&M, and I'll tell you, this came out of left field to me. I think Trev Albers is actually in a very good spot to take over Texas A&M because Texas A&M, from an athletic department standpoint, is a lot like Nebraska. And I know Texas A&M fans, you might like to hear that. If you hate me, you can leave a comment in the comments section. You will like me later on in the show. I promise you will. So keep watching, keep listening. You'll like it. But for now, Trev Albers is in a very similar situation. Why? Because like at Nebraska, there are unrealistic expectations within the Texas A&M football program. And let's be honest, football drives the bus here. There's no doubt about that. But there are unrealistic expectations at Texas A&M. They think they should be in the mix for a national championship every single season. That's why Jimbo got hired. That's why Jimbo fizzled out, because he didn't meet those expectations. And look at what happened with Trev Albers at Nebraska. It was almost like the Scott Frost hire, right? Native son goes home. Native son is supposed to leave the team to prosperity. It didn't happen at Nebraska. Is it going to happen at Texas A&M? Well, I think it might. Maybe not to win the national championship every single season, because that's going to be a lot harder in the SEC with Texas and Oklahoma, no divisions, all that other stuff. But I think Trev Albers can learn from his mistakes at Nebraska, can learn from a situation where he was the man. He was looked at as the savior. And obviously that didn't happen. Why didn't it happen? Because he didn't handle the fan base. He didn't handle the boosters in a way that maybe he needed to in order to bring down those expectations. And look, if I'm a booster, if I'm a big money booster, if I'm putting all this money into the 12th Man Foundation, if I think that, hey, if I am a part of this collective, I can get Texas A&M back, or to a place, not back, but to a place where it is one of the elite programs in the country, I'm not going to want to hear, hey, that's not reality. But it isn't reality. And Trev Albers, I don't think, managed that very well at Nebraska. Learn from your mistakes. Again, this is something that I really like, constructive criticism. At Texas A&M, I think Trev Albers can look around and say, all right, how do we do this? Grassroots. Let's hit the reset button. All of you boosters that are pouring money into the program, keep doing it. but let's be patient with Mike Elko. And I think that's the thing with Mike Elko. And we'll talk about this later in the show when we talk about national championship odds. And yes, we will talk about Texas A&M in relation to national championship odds. But with a guy like Mike Elko, 2 years as a head coach, did it at Duke, really wasn't in the frying pan, really wasn't under the microscope. This is something that I think works well. Trev Albers and Mike Elko work well together. That's a solid relationship because I think both of them understand, and I think Texas A&M fans probably understand, hey, this isn't Jimbo Fisher. Let's bring that back a little bit. Let's tamper down the expectations. So I think it is odd. It is out of left field. I don't think any of us expected this guy, Trev Albers, who was on game day, of course, to be Ross Bjork's replacement. And of course, Bjork goes to Ohio State, which again, surprised all of us. But I think for Texas A&M, it's the right guy, the right time. He was in a pressure cooker at Nebraska. It didn't work out for a lot of different reasons, but Trev is smart enough, I think, to learn from his mistakes. And that's the most important thing with Texas A&M. If you got any comments on that, please leave them in the chat. I will do my best to answer them. Now, when it comes to odds, and I say this every time we talk about odds on this show in the offseason, they exist to drive discussion. And especially in this day and age, when you don't even know who's going to be on the roster come April, much less come late August, early September. But they're there they exist to drive conversation. So you know what? Let's drive some conversation. How about it, right? Texas A&M, we just got done talking about Trev Albers. Check this out. This is from Covers, and it shows. I love how it shows the open and then FanDuel and DraftKings odds right this very second. And look at Texas A&M down there at 3,500, the bottom of this page. It hadn't moved according to DraftKings. Odds got a little worse according to FanDuel. But this show's all about value. And Texas A&M's got a lot of value in these odds. And I know the next reaction is going to be like, oh, we do this all the time with Texas A&M. We're not going to do this again with the Aggies. We do this every single offseason. Not me. I don't do it every offseason. In fact, you go ask every single Texas A&M fan out there, they hate me. They've always hated me. And you know why? Because I was right about Jimbo Fisher. Because that hype was there for a reason. So no, we are not hyping up Texas A&M like we do every single season. This is about value for the national championship. And if I can get Texas A&M at plus 3,500, that's the wrong one, plus 3,500 to win the national championship, I'm in 100%. Because let's look at what they actually have. A superstar quarterback. And yes, I do believe Connor is a superstar quarterback if he comes back healthy. That helps. That's huge, obviously. But it goes beyond that. What was Texas A&M's problem through the entirety of the Jimbo Fisher era? It was a stale offense, a complicated offense, one that was way too complicated for college football players, especially in this day and age where you have seen more transfer players. So, and Mike Elko, I think, is smart enough, and he knows Texas A&M obviously from his time there, but he's smart enough to recognize that he can't overcomplicate things, especially for players who are still getting accustomed to each other when fall camp starts, when the season starts. And look, the wide receiving core, absolutely loaded with Moose. And then assuming Noah Thomas comes back from the injury that kept him out of the Texas Bowl, they are loaded at wide receiver. Running back by committee, not a problem at all, especially if Moss takes the lead. I think this Texas A&M offense can be above average to good in the SEC. All right. Now, does that mean they're going to make the win the national championship? No. But does that allow them to get in the playoff? Yeah, maybe. If you're the third or fourth best team in the SEC, you have a really good shot at making the college football playoff. And once you're there, all it takes is 60 good minutes on every single day to survive and advance. And that's the name of the game in the SEC anyway. If you're an SEC or a Big Ten team, you have, generally speaking, the talent to beat anybody on any given day. And that's the most important part. And we've seen this with A&M in the past. Good enough to beat anybody on any given day. A few years ago, the walk-off field goal in College Station to beat Alabama. What was A&M? Good enough on that day. So if you can tell me that I'm going to get plus 3,500, I'm putting down $10, $20, $30 on it because I like those odds. I like those odds a lot. All right. Another value play. And again, sort of like Texas A&M. Every single offseason, we hype up Miami right now. I am guilty of this, to be honest with you, because I have fallen into that trap before because I am a Mario Cristobal fan, and I do think he is smart enough to learn from his mistakes. Now, check this out. Plus 7,000 is where it opened, and now it's plus 6,000 on FanDuel. I will take that all day, all night, all evening long. I'm not the biggest Cam Ward guy, but I could be wrong. The dude's a stat monster. He's been a stat monster at FCS. He's been a stat monster during his time at Washington State. Does that mean he can be a stat monster at Miami? I don't know, maybe. I don't think he's going to be able to put up comparable numbers, but I could be wrong. And even if I'm not wrong, I think when you look at what he has to do, it isn't that daunting. Not a big Florida guy. I think Billy Napier is going to get fired. Yeah, at Louisville, that's tough, but you get Florida State at home. I just think when this is all said and done, what's the toughest road game? At Louisville? At Syracuse to end the season? At Georgia Tech? No. None of that scares me all that much. So, in the ACC, if you're going to win the national championship, you have to be what? One of the 2 or 3 best teams potentially to get into the playoff? Okay, I think Florida State's better. I think Clemson's going to be better. But why do I think Clemson's going to be better? Why do I think Florida State's going to be better? It's because I think Mario Cristobal, from a game management standpoint, isn't where he needs to be. Recruiting standpoint, yes. Hiring assistant coaches, I think he's better than people realize. Winning in the trenches, yes, I think he can do that. And he has done that, both at Oregon and I think Miami, they've done a little bit better as well. The holdup is game management. We all saw what happened in that Georgia Tech game last year. It was an embarrassment. And it wasn't the first time that it's happened to Mario Cristobal. A little bit of humble pie goes a long way. And I think Mario had a big feast. He had a full table of humble pie after last season, starting with the Georgia Tech game, but probably moving on to others as well. If he can just be a little bit better, it would go a long way. It would be huge for Miami. So if you're Miami and you're one of the top 2 teams in the ACC, you go to the ACC championship game, you might not win it, but you're a 9-3, 10-2 team, which with this schedule, tell me I'm wrong. Would I be wrong as Miami as a 10-2 team? Where are the 2 losses? Tell me where the 2 losses are. At Louisville, Florida State at home. Those are the only 2 that sort of scare you on this. Those are the only 2 that scare you on this. So to me, that's great value. That is tremendous value. Because look at this again. Plus 6,000. Plus 7,000 at DraftKings still. I'll put a couple bucks on that. I 100% would put a couple of bucks on that. Value the wrong direction. The team that you should not put money on. It's the LSU Tigers. Here's LSU sitting there at plus 1,200 to open. The odds have gotten a little worse on FanDuel, even at DraftKings. I just don't see it with LSU. Now, I think in the SEC, like we talked about before with Texas A&M, if you're one of the top 4 teams in the SEC, you're probably going to get into the college football playoff. And if you're in there, all it takes is 60 good minutes. But LSU's ahead of Ole Miss in that. That's crazy. That is insane. LSU, to me, look, it's all about complementary football, right? The offense is not going to be what it was last year. There's no way it's what it was last year with Jaden Daniels. And Mike Denbrock was great, and he's gone. All right? So, look, nothing against Garrett Nussmeier. Maybe a little bit against Garrett Nussmeier. But, look, this offense is going to take a step back. I don't think there's any doubt about this. They still have some weapons outside. They do not have a running back that can carry the ball 25 times a game. Josh Williams is very good, but throughout his entire career, this is his 6th year, he's been a part of a rotation. Sometimes he's been the number 1 guy as part of a rotation, but it's still part of a rotation. And without a mobile quarterback, he's going to be asked to do more. The running back position is going to be asked to do more. So I don't necessarily, it's not going to be what it was. Now, the obvious second part of this puzzle would be, okay, the defense can't be that bad. Well, that's true. I don't think any defense can be as bad as LSU's was last season. They still don't necessarily know what they're going to do with Harold Perkins. Now, spring and fall, I get that. There's a lot of time to figure it out. But to me, the defense is not going to take as much of a step forward as the offense is going to take as much of a step back. And for LSU, is that enough to be a top 4 team in the SEC? I would say Georgia, Texas, Alabama, and Ole Miss ahead of LSU. You could make, if you want to argue Tennessee with Nico Iamaleava, I'm all ears for that as well. Could Texas A&M get in above LSU? Could it be one of the top, half, one in the top half? And yeah, maybe. So I'm not buying LSU, especially at this value. Look, would I be wrong to say LSU could be a top 4, top 3 team? Maybe. I think I would. I think that's a stretch. But to have them at plus 1,200 on DraftKings, the 6th most likely team to win the national championship? No, absolutely not. And LSU fans, you used to hate me with Les Miles. I was right about Les Miles. You seem to like me the last couple of years because I was right about winning the SEC West, and I was all hyped up last year, and I was wrong. But still, this is not a recipe for success. It's not a recipe for success. So value-wise, no, just don't buy it. Just don't buy it one bit. Hey, let's switch gears a little bit. I'm going to wrap up the show. But before we wrap up the show, here's this beauty from October, and it has absolutely nothing to do with college football.
Max, just having to go through a ton of pitches, what the bullpen was able to do tonight to keep this game in it, can you say about yourself and the way the guys came out?
I mean, all that was just heart and nuts. I mean, that's all it was. I mean, Wheeler did an unbelievable job just locating, keeping the hitters off balance. And, I mean, if you would have looked 2 innings ago, I mean, it looked like our season was coming to an end, unfortunately.
That's AJ Minter, Braves reliever, heart and nuts. And the reason I show you that, A, the Brave season is about to start, but B, Breaking Tea has a phenomenal shirt. Came out about 2 hours after that quote, which was after game 2 of the NLDS. That NLDS did not work out great, but that's neither here nor there. This is what Breaking Tea is all about. When something like that happens, they come out and give you all of the merch that you could possibly want. Nothing but heart and nuts. That is one of the best quotes. And it's not even a Tyler Matzik quote. You would think that Tyler Matzik, since, that's the anatomy is what he likes. That's generally how he operates. But this is what Breaking Tea is all about. So go breakingtea.com/smothered and covered if you want some college football gear. Go to breakingtea.com/Baird if you want some Braves gear. We'll have a little bit of announcement about maybe some projects working a little bit in that direction. Maybe next week we'll talk about it, but not right now. But it is baseball season. Ronald Acuna in the lineup today for the Braves down at Northport. So that's exciting as well. At breakingtea.com/smothered and covered, breakingtea.com/Barrett. If you want some Braves gear, They have everything that you possibly could want. That'll wrap it up for this edition of College Football Smothered and Covered. There's a lot going on. I love talking about odds. And got to check the comment section. Neglected the comment section. I apologize, Brian Bertrand. I try not to, but I hated Les Miles. Also, what Vegas is considering LSU getting 2, possibly 3 interior defensive linemen in the upcoming portal. To not consider that is poor forecasting. Now, poor forecasting, I would say, is to consider that. Poor forecasting would be to assume that they are getting those people to get 2 or 3 defensive linemen in the portal, because the portal is unpredictable. But again, these are odds that we talk about in February, March, maybe into April. They're not based on reality. However, because of that, and you can't put a ton of money on these odds. It's just not how things operate. But I'm not going to sit there and take those odds assuming there's going to be a mass influx of players into a team that is in the mix for a national championship, if that makes sense. So look, Brian, I get it. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. I really appreciate it. I disagree with you here, but again, I love disagreeing with people. I love when we can have civil discussions, because this might come as a shock. We don't all hate each other. We shouldn't hate each other. Sports are fun, especially college football. So we shouldn't treat it like life or death. Yes, I know that's hard to imagine sometimes, but that is the case. Like I said, give us some stars, 5, 1, whatever you want. Subscribe, tell your friends. YouTube, Rumble, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, all those places as well. Have a great Thursday, everybody. I might talk to you tomorrow very early, but tomorrow's show might be postponed for some things that I have to deal with that are a little bit more important than sports in general. But I will make sure to let you guys know what happens, if it's going to happen, and when there will be a makeup show, because we will find a way to get it done. Enjoy your Thursday.